cellars of Domaine de l'Arlot in Premeaux, Nuits-Saint-Georges, with Jacques Devauges. And I'm very happy to be here with you tasting these magnificent wines. We just tasted the 2011 vintage, and now we have Vosne Romanée Souchot, 2010.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, Jacques, could you tell us a little something about the history of the domain, a little bit about your background, and the appellations that you're now making?
Sure. So, about the history of the domain, the history of Domaine de l'Arlot starts right after French Revolution, at the end of the 18th century. A person called Charles Vienneau purchased the vineyard of Claude Larlot and Côte de Nuit-Village Claude du Chapeau. And those two vineyards belong to the Vienneau family during 100 of years. So at the end of the 19th century, the domain has been sold from the Vienneau to the Belin. And Mr. Belin purchased the Clos des Forêts Saint-Georges at this point. And the Domaine de l'Arlot belonged to the Belin family for another 100 of years. And we arrive end of the 20th century, 1986. The Belin had no children to take over the domain. So the domain has been sold to AXA. And at this point, Jean-Pierre de Smet came in and drive the domain. And the two other important dates for the domain are 1991, with the purchase of the Romanée Saint-Vivant for 0.25 hectares, and 1992 with the purchase of Vosne Romanée Premier Cru Les Suchots that we are drinking, enjoying right now. Voilà, so that's a little bit about the history. One thing important as well to say it is that Domaine de l'Arlot is organic and biodynamic since a couple of years now, since 2000 for organic farming and 2003 for biodynamic farming. And it's very important to preserve the spirit of the domain, which is to show with as many accuracy as we can the expression of our different terroirs.
And when Jean-Pierre came in 1986 with the arrival of AXA Millésime, he really stayed at the domain from 1986 until 2006, 20 years. But during that time, Olivier Lariche was working under him. I'm not sure what year he started. But
I think he started on the 1998 or 99, something like that.
I think so. So he was here for quite some time and then took over a lot of the responsibilities until 2000 and finished the 2010 vintage.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then we're happy to have you taking up the next,
so myself I arrived in 2011, and I have a strong responsibility to continue to make the domain progress, because obviously vintage after vintage we have to improve, and I must say that I have now the benefit of all the work that has been made before, but I want to continue to have this spirit, this philosophy of really respect our terroir and show the truth of the soils we are, and making wine respectful of that. So myself, before, I worked a little bit when I was young, when I was just graduated, I worked a little bit in Napa for a year and a half. After I came back to Burgundy, because I'm from my origin, I'm from Burgundy. I worked with Pascal Marchand at Domaine de la Vougeraie for 5 years. 5 more years in Moret-Saint-Denis with Frédéric Magnin. And now I'm very happy to be here since 2011.
Well, we're happy that you are here.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Cheers.
And this is a question I ask a lot of winemakers, because there are a lot of ways to describe wine and talk about wine.
Mhm.
And one way that I am comfortable relating to wine is music.
Mhm.
And I like, the expression of wine and, how it makes me feel and how I understand it. Sometimes it could be
Mhm.
maybe jazz or classical music, or I like rock and roll. And, my favorite rock and roll band is the Rolling Stones.
Okay.
So, what is your favorite rock and roll band?
My favorite rock and roll band is Vivaldi, you know.
Vivaldi.
I love
Very rock and roll.
No, but he was a rock and roll guy for his time. He was a monk.
Uh-huh.
And when you think to the power of the music he made,
Yeah.
not only religious music, it was the rock and roll of Venice, because he
Wow.
made his music in Venice.
Fantastic.
So to me, I feel so well in Venice, the art that has been made on this city at this period, and the music is part of all that, and I must say that I really love Vivaldi music.
Well, here's to Vivaldi wine and the rock and roll band, the Rolling Stones.
Sure.
Cheers.